Alright, here's my 86 SVO that I've just put the Volvo head on. There's a lot of information out there on how to put it on the engine, but not a whole lot of information on what all to do after you get the head on the engine. Well, just real quick, to put it, actually get it to fit on the engine, all the cylinders and the bolt holes line up from the Volvo head to the forward block. So what you got to do is weld a block of aluminum to the back of the head and run oiling external to the cams and stuff from the block to the cams. There's a lot of information on the internet on how to do that, but like I said, not very much information on how to make all the brackets and intakes and everything else for it. If you can get a 92 to 94 block, those, or 92 to 94 Ranger block, those are probably the better ones to get. Just put the forged internals on them. Reason for that is you can use the brackets, which is what I did, use 92 94 Ranger brackets for the alternator and the power steering. And if you use the 92 94 Ranger, you can also have the distributorless ignition already there, so you won't have to fool with the distributor like for the SVO. It still has the distributor. So what I did, I used the 92 94 Ranger alternator bracket. I cut it off here, the part that goes over to the head. I cut that off, grind it down smooth, and then same thing for the power steering bracket, where the alternator or the AC bolts up. I cut the AC bracket off and ground all that down smooth, so it would clear the head. So that's why you see this nice ground down section here, because I cut all that off and ground it down smooth so it can clear the Volvo head. I also used a power steering pump from the 87 88 Turbo Coupe, because they don't have the reservoir on the back of the pump. It uses a remote reservoir. And as you see, it has the return on the top, and I just used a 90-degree pipe that goes in the top, and that goes up to my power steering reservoir. I've also put the Hydro Boost on it from a 4.6 Mustang. I did that. That's fairly easy to do. A couple of holes lined up in the firewall. You have to do a little bit of modifying to the bracket for the Hydro Boost, and I kept my SVO master cylinder by making an adapter plate here that adapts the master cylinder to the Hydro Boost unit. And the reason for using the Hydro Boost unit, so it can clear the intake, because the old vacuum unit does not clear the intake, it interferes with it. I had to make one line to the Hydro Boost, which was fairly easy. Most part stores can make the lines. Well, you can't see it down in there, but I just had to make one line, and that's all I had to make. The rest of them worked. The throttle body I use is for a 94 95 5.0. It's a 70 millimeter, and I made a crank throw, or whatever you want to call it, bell crank throttle throw adapter, so I can still use the stock SVO linkage and stuff. And of course, I made some spacers and stuff to weld up and space it off of the intake. And the intake is just the Volvo intake with the runner cut off, and this is just a 3-inch tube that I welded to the Volvo intake. The fuel rail is just fuel rail stock. You can get that off of eBay. I made all that work. You just got to drill your bungs for the injectors, make some brackets, and I anodize these, which anodizing is real easy to do. You can look that up on YouTube how to do that. I bought a fuel pressure regulator kit off of eBay. It comes with all the lines, easy to do. And also got a front mount intercooler kit off of eBay. Those are real easy to install. I did have to cut a couple of pipes. I had to cut this one and shorten it, and then I had to cut this one and lengthen it, which I had a guy weld up here, and then there's another weld right under this clamp here. I still got to make some brackets to hold down the radiator and a bracket for my power steering reservoir. The radiator is out of a 94 and up Thunderbird radiator and fan, and the reason I use that is because the regular Mustang radiator, the outlet for the hose will wind up hitting the pipe. So by using the Thunderbird radiator, it's narrower, so it lets it clear the pipes. I still got a few things to work out on it, but overall it pretty well works. This elbow here is off of an Audi TT. That's just something I had laying around. And the intercooler kit that I bought had enough piping in it to make this pipe. I had the same guy that does my aluminum welding, I had him weld a bung in for that. And this is one of the fittings left over my fuel pressure regulator kit. I just drilled and tapped that fitting for the PCV system. And for the PCV system, what I did was just run that line all the way over here to the dipstick tube. So I've just got it run straight, plugged it right straight on top of the dipstick tube for my PCV system instead of drilling a hole in the valve cover. Some people drill a hole in the valve cover and put a bung there. You can do that. And I just hang my dipstick right up here in the hood. Now, as far as the timing goes, all the timing works, all the cogs and everything. Well, as long as you get the round tooth cogs for like I said, the 92, 94 Ranger, those work with the Volvo cams. And what I did, a lot of people are taking the 2.3 timing tensioner and turning it around. Well, this is part of the Volvo one, and I cut a piece off and used an eccentric pulley. I'm pretty sure this is off of a Subaru, I can't remember. And this small roller right here is off of a Volkswagen. So it makes it where you don't have much distance between the intermediate shaft and the camshaft. So it helps belt from flopping. And you do have to space out the crank. What a lot of people are doing is cutting a piece off of the crank and using that piece off of the crank to space out the lower cog. Of course, you can't see that, but if you look up on YouTube and some of the other things where they tell you how to do it, it explains it better in detail. The exhaust kit, you can get that off of eBay. Pyro Pete, I believe, is the one that sells those. It's just the flange with some T's and elbows, and you weld it all up, make all that work. And I just painted it with spray on coating, header coating. You can get it at the parts store. Painted the turbo housing and stuff with that too. Everything's pretty well easy to do. There's a lot of fabrication when you do this head swap, but it's not that hard. I mean, if you get somebody to do some aluminum welding for you, and you got a little bit of knowledge on how to, make engine work and everything, and you can run your oiling. A lot of people do it with hard lines. I did mine with just rubber lines. You can't really see it back there, but I just got a well, what I did was bought a oil cooler kit off of eBay, and it has 2 outlets on the oil cooler kit that you can run pressure from. So one of them feeds the turbo, and well, you can't really see it either, but the oil cooler kit You can see the lines right down there on the bottom. It runs to a cooler up front. But anyway, you can use the pressure ports off of that oil cooler, and you can also tap into where the oil sending unit is for pressure ports. You'll need one to feed the turbo. Some people just run one pressure feed to the head. I run one on each cam. You can't really see it underneath the wiring, but anyway, I tapped into the bottom of the head right under here to feed this cam, and then on the other side, same thing here. I tapped the bottom of the head right under here, and that's what this heat shielding goes on, is the line for the exhaust cam. So that way I've got oil feeding both cams. I also used part of my original tubing from the SVO for my cooler hose, heater hoses. And of course, some of them I had to make, some of them I had to fabricate and cut up a little bit different. But also I've got to put a heater core in this one. My heater core is leaking, so I've got it just bypassed right now. But you can use a lot of off-the-shelf stuff, a lot of Ford parts you can make fit, and other brands of vehicles, like I said, they'll fit. So you just got to use what's out there and find what works. But it's not that hard of a swap to do. You just got to put your head to it and make it work. So like I said, I just finished this one up, so I still got a few things to do, like my radiator brackets, and I drove it for the first time for a long trip last night. Drove it 50 miles and everything worked good, and I took it out and drove it again this morning for about another 4 or 5 miles. So far, no bad leaks or no coolant leaks. Everything's working good so far. Took it out, I'm taking it easy on it right now. Built it up to about 13 pounds of boost. It pulls good. It's got a whole lot more lower end torque than the old setup. In the old setup, I had a lot done to it, but this one has a whole lot more lower end power and lower end torque, even at only 13 pounds of boost. I've got another turbo to go on it, but I'm just for now using the smaller T3 T4 hybrid to break it in on. So anyway, I'll try to have a few more videos later on about other stuff to do on the engine. I've got another SVO under the blue cover there, and there's my wife's 93 white summer edition Celine Eyes convertible. Alright, thank you guys. See you, bye.